Jalen Hurts, Mike White, Lamar Jackson, Nathaniel Hackett, and the Denver Broncos. This was the most recent report coming from Ian Rappaport that there's a real chance Jalen Hurts' shoulder pushes to play Week 17 against the Saints. He wants to play. Every player wants to play. And he wants to close this down in Week 17, rest Week 18, rest during the wild card week, and that gives him enough time to rest. All of that and more on this emergency show, breaking news show, the Fantasy Football Show.
It begins right now, pal.
This is the Fantasy Football Show with your host, Smitty.
Take a lap.
What is going on, good people? You're watching the Fantasy Football Show, and we've got a little bit of breaking news we got to talk about here. Walking into Week 17 of the fantasy football season and the NFL season, and we've got Nathaniel Hackett being fired. Broncos fired Nathaniel Hackett. There's all reports all over Twitter. There's speculation that it led up to it being official. He's gone. And this Broncos team is a disaster, a complete disaster. And Russell Wilson's not it. You got to think, what are they going to do at quarterback? Are they going to, they recognize, even owing a lot of money to this guy, they recognize this is not the answer. Nathaniel Hackett, this approach is not. Russell Wilson's as much not the answer as Nathaniel Hackett, but what do? You know, they're on the hook for this. They're going to walk in one more year and see what's what with Russell Wilson. I don't know what's going to happen, but Russell Wilson's not the answer. Nathaniel Hackett was not the answer. Javonte Williams, I mean, we're all just like screaming at the top of our lungs, us Javonte Williams believers, because we were waiting for this to happen, and Javonte obviously got hurt. We were waiting for Melvin Gordon to be removed from the picture, and Javonte got hurt. All the paths we wanted cleared for Javonte all happened after Javonte got hurt. What's in store for Javonte in 2023? I don't know. I feel like, that's going to be determined by his speedy or non-speedy recovery from his torn ACL. There's no way to just be like, oh, he's going to be amazing now and all this. He had a pretty gruesome ACL injury. His recovery could be quite difficult. I think Breece Hall recovers better than Javonte Williams, but hopefully both of them do recover well. I think Breece Hall will be a top 12 overall pick walking into 2023 fantasy football August drafts. We'll see what happens in April, May, June, early mock drafting. He might be in the second round as people wait on the ACL recovery news, the speed of his recovery. But I think Javonte is going to fall pretty far. This news, Hackett being out's great. What if the new coach doesn't want to use Javonte Williams? We don't know. No one knows anything. No one knows anything. But we do know that this is progress for the idea of Javonte doing well in 2023. But there's too many moving parts to even get excited about this yet. So that was one piece of news, Nathaniel Hackett being fired. I'll put this over in the corner here. And the next piece of news is Mike White is starting week number 17, which is fantastic news.
Let's go! Mashed potatoes!
We love Mike White around these parts. We love the man named Mike White. He is an absolute monster. And it's good to see him back in the lineup, and I hope he has an amazing week number 17, so that it's really clear that this guy is starting material going into the future. And if anybody thinks Zach Wilson is going to get another shot, maybe he does. I don't know. Teams are surprising. Coaches make surprising moves. Organizations oftentimes leave me scratching my head. But Mike White is, if he finishes strong, there'll be a very, very clear indication the direction that is needed walking into 2023 in terms of the quarterback position. Mike White, I love this guy. And this is great news for Garrett Wilson. This is great news for the entire offense. Garrett Wilson goes from being a questionable play, period, like even in your wide receiver 3 or flex spot, to maybe now a low-end, at least low-end wide receiver 1, or you could at least say a locked-in, loaded, high-end wide receiver 2 with the upside of being a top 7 wide receiver. So we have some dilemmas to talk about, right? For those of you that have Garrett Wilson, we'll attack that all week long. So great news to Mike White. Mike White,
to the moon.
We need to send him to the moon. Lamar Jackson, there's no word yet. The words from John Harbaugh were, we'll just have to wait, or we'll just have to see if Lamar can play practice this week and play week 17. We also have probably the most important news is Jalen Hurts. What's going to happen with Jalen Hurts? We don't know. We don't have any indication whether Jalen Hurts is going to actually play in week number 17. I think they'll try and play him. I think Jalen Hurts will try and play week 17 because they Eagles don't want to leave this up to week 18. They have to win one of the next 2 games to solidify home field advantage, and they don't want to leave it up to week 18. They just don't. So playing Jalen this week will be an objective, but it's, they're not going to push it. They're not going to put their entire playoffs on the line to run him out there for 1 week when they can maybe run him out there in week 18. They may win with Gardner Minshew in week 17 anyway, and then they don't have to play Jalen Hurts in week 18. They can keep resting him and get him ready for the playoffs. Your guess is as good as mine at this point, but I do know that they'll be strongly considering playing Jalen Hurts if he can go. And we don't know the exact extent of his injury. Everyone wants to assume that his shoulder is X bad, or he's going to be at this amount of risk if he plays. And the bottom line is we don't have the details on the severity. There's so many levels of variation in shoulder injuries, even within the grades. Grade 1, there's certain levels where you're barely a grade 1. Or you're almost a grade 2, your grade 1 is so bad. So everybody needs to relax on trying to predict exactly how long this guy needs to be out, how risky it is for him to play. You don't know the answer to that, Bob, because you don't have the medical records, Bob. You don't have Jalen Hurts on your table, Bob, examining his shoulder with your very own eyes. And you're not reading the MRI results, Bob. So I would say at this point, and this could change with the snap of a finger, I'd say they're 50-50 on wanting to play him. I think we'll know later if Jalen Hurts is going to play. We'll know, obviously, by Thursday. This was the most recent report coming from Ian Rappaport that there's a real chance Jalen Hurts' shoulder pushes to play week 17 against the Saints. He wants to play. Every player wants to play. And he wants to close this down in week 17, rest week 18, rest during the wild card week, and that gives him enough time to rest. He knows how good or bad his shoulder is. He knows what risk level he's probably putting himself in. Yes, he's a running quarterback. Yes, it is a throwing shoulder. But again, we don't know the severity, the risk level. He does. The team does. And I think people need to hold out hope that maybe he plays in week 17. And I said this last week. It could be a blessing in disguise that Jalen Hurts doesn't play week 16, because if you have Jalen Hurts and you do beat your lesser opponent, your most likely lesser opponent in week 16, in week 17, you might have Jalen Hurts. If Jalen Hurts would have played week 16, won the game, he would have sat week 17, and then you wouldn't have had him in championship week when it mattered the most. Now you might have this blessing in disguise. Jalen sitting week 16 to play week 17. We'll see. We'll have more information on that. What's up, my guy? You're live on the Fantasy Football Show. Well, technically, I'm pre-recording this, but we're gonna post it live. Who am I talking to?
Yo, you're talking to one of the biggest Rams fans on this earth. Rams, help us, get. What do you think about that game?
I mean, Baker's playing great, man. I mean, Akers looked, finally good, and I think Akers could be leaned on this coming week, and then you'll see what's what walking into the 2023 season. But I'd start Akers as a flex, but I'm not so excited to where I'm rolling out Baker. But there are people that have horrible quarterback situations. We were waiting on Jalen Hurts news. A lot of people are starting Baker that don't want to be, but hey, there's hope. You're a Rams fan. You got to be excited about what you saw for sure.
Oh man, I was blown away. Now I do have a question for you. If tonight works out, I could be in the finals, and I do have Higbee on my bench. Is he a flex option moving forward? And now I know it depends on my other options, but how do you feel about Higbee next week, considering the massive amount of targets he got?
Yeah, Higbee pulled in a lot of balls. He was very, very targeted. He was very active. He's very good. He looked awesome. I think he's for sure top. He's top 4 to 8 tight end material this week for sure. But I think flex, yeah. I mean, it depends on your scenario.
I thought the Broncos had a good, decent, at least a pretty good defense moving into that game. Was I very wrong about that defense, or is Nathaniel Hackett just an idiot? What happened there?
Well, I mean, they've been very good all year, so no one's wrong on liking the D or thinking the D's good. They just, when your offense is that bad and your defense gets shoved onto the field constantly, things start to fall apart. That's why Hackett got fired. I don't know what's in store for the Broncos moving forward. I really hope that Javonte has a really fast ACL recovery, but I'm still a little fearful that, that he has a long road ahead and there's so many obstacles for him. But I'll be rooting for him. I don't know where I'll be ranking him yet. A lot depends on the ACL news and the recovery timetables and such. I think Breece Hall is probably going to have a quick, easy, smooth recovery. Javonte had a little bit worse knee injury, but we'll see what's what. I just wish all this would have happened. It sucked that Hackett had to be fired. Gordon had to be released. All this had to happen after Javonte got hurt, and that's all we were waiting for. But Denver's got a long road ahead. The Rams have a shorter path to getting back to being successful because they got Cooper Kupp coming back, Stafford coming back. I mean, it'll be fun to watch both teams react in the offseason, in the draft, and how are they going to build, and what's Denver going to do at quarterback? Like, are they really going to roll with? They fired Hackett and owe him a whole bunch of money, but they're making the tough call. Like, what do they do with Russell Wilson? I don't know. He's not it anymore. He's not. Later, pal. I will see you all at 7 p.m. Eastern because I go live every single day, Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern. I also go live whenever news breaks or drop a video like this one, a live premiere like this one on Jalen Hurts, on all this news right here. I go live whenever news breaks, and I'm live Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at midnight, Sunday a couple times in the morning before the games, after the games to do a recap. I go live all the time. You found your new home for fantasy football, young man. Now, buckle up, get ready.
2023
is beginning right now.
This is the Fantasy Football Show with your host, Smitty.